Your Excellency, Pak Yusuf Kala, the former Vice President of Republic Indonesia, he was instrumental in achieving the final solution in Aceh. Thank you, Kala. Your Excellency, Pak Ahmed Waludin, the former Minister of Law and Human Rights, my counterpart in Helsinki. Welcome. And His Excellency, Pak Hasan Wirajuda, the former Foreign Minister of Indonesia. He was my counterpart during the earlier meeting in Geneva. Welcome. Excellencies, honorable delegates from diplomatic missions and international delegations. I have to read my speech because it contains of the present situation and for the future for Aceh. Whatever the shortcomings are still in Aceh. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is Islamic open speech. That means peace be upon all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Matanabi and Mr. Aizawa, who facilitated this meeting this afternoon. It is with deep respect and sincere appreciation that I stand before you today to mark the 20th anniversary of the signing of the Aceh Peace Agreement in Helsinki, Finland on the 15th of August, year 2005. It was indeed an historic moment that transformed the course of our people and set an example for peace building in the region and beyond. Let me begin by extending my heartfelt gratitude to the government of the Republic of Indonesia, to our international partners, particularly the Crisis Management Initiative, or CMI. In this case, the late President of Finland, Martti Ahtisaari. He was a very able mediator, which contributed to the agreement of this peace agreement. And also to the government of Finland, who played a pivotal role in facilitating the peace process, and to all individuals who contributed with wisdom and patience to the peace process in Helsinki 2 decades ago. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, in August 2005, as the chief negotiator of the Free Aceh Movement, or GAM, I had this solemn responsibility of representing the aspirations of the Acehese people at the negotiating table. The conflict we sought to resolve was not merely political in nature, but one that had left deep scars on families, communities, for generations of the Acehese people. The Helsinki peace process, therefore, was not simply a political settlement. It was a journey of mutual negotiation and moral courage, and that demanded humanity, empathy, and vision from all parties involved. We entered the negotiations not as adversaries, but as fellow human beings, committed to ending decades of armed conflict, suffering, and to building a foundation for shared dignity for all parties concerned. The signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, also known as MOU, between the Government of Indonesia and GAM marked not the victory of one side over the other, but the triumph of peace over conflict, dialogue over violence, and hope over despair. Since then, the MOU Helsinki and its embodiment through the law on the governing of Aceh, or LOGA, have served as the pillars of Aceh's transition towards sustainable peace and democratic self-governance within the framework of the unitary state of the Republic of Indonesia. As Wali Negara of Aceh, or guardian of the state of Aceh, a customary and symbolic institution entrusted with unifying and guiding our people, I carry the responsibility of ensuring that the spirit of the peace agreement continues to guide our collective journey. This role compels me to preserve our traditions and cultural heritage, while upholding the principles of peace, inclusiveness, and reconciliation. Yet we must also acknowledge that peace is not a destination, but a continuing process to be constantly nurtured and preserved. 2 decades later, the promise and hope of Helsinki Accord still a work in progress. Important aspects of the agreement remain incomplete, and the aspirations of many victims and communities affected by conflict await full justice, recognition, and perhaps compensation. Let this commemoration serve not only as a celebration, but also as a moment of reflection and recommitment. We must renew our collective will to fully implement the Peace Accord, to uphold local autonomy in a meaningful and accountable manner, and to ensure that peace dividends are enjoyed by all segments of society, especially the youth, women, and survivors of the conflict. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to our brothers and sisters across Indonesia, and to our friends in the international community, I respectfully appeal for your continued support in advancing the implementation of the Helsinki Agreement and strengthening the peace architecture in Aceh. To the younger generation of Acehnese and Indonesian allies, I convey this message. Let your future be shaped not by the wounds of the past, but by the wisdom that peace is priceless. It must be protected at all costs. Let us build a future where justice, dignity, and cultural identity can be flourished in unity. In conclusion, allow me to share a timeless reminder. Peace does not come by chance. It is built deliberately, patiently, and with courage by those who dare to rise above division. May this 20th anniversary be a reward of that spirit. I would like to add, before ending my speech, about what the previous speakers have been saying. His Excellency Pak Yusuf Kala, Excellency Ahmed Awaludin. First of all, you have delivered so many things already, but I just add something else. Any conflict in this world, we have to look forward why it happened. This is part of the human nature, actually. Human nature is sometimes very kind. Sometimes there was jealousy. Sometimes because of inequality, even in a household, actually. And when we talk about community, about the interests of the community, there is no equality in many things. As in Aceh, Aceh has been struggled for the establishment of Indonesia for a very long time. Even in 1945, when other parts of Indonesia have been occupied by the Dutch military forces, but Aceh still intact. Aceh was still exists as an independent state at the time and recognized the establishment of Indonesia. Because the flag, red, white flag, always fluttered in Aceh. The Acehnese forget not to raise up their own flags. This is something great sacrifice from the Acehnese people. We support Indonesia by money, by weapon, by men at war. I witnessed all of this. When I was a small boy at the time, many Acehnese came to Penang, brought commodities like rubbers at that time, sold them there, and got the money. They bought the guns, other logistics, and even I saw they brought money to be presented to the representative of Indonesian outside. Because when I was about 10 years old at that time, through two Acehnese people who went to Penang in Malaysia at that time, they brought commodities there and they sold the commodity there with the order to present the money to the representative of Indonesia outside. He was in Singapore at that time. And the money was put inside a leather bag at that time. And that I saw myself. And of course, there are so many other things that the Chinese have been supporting Indonesia. But when Indonesia got its independence, then start the trouble. Aceh leaders at that time have the ambition that Aceh will be part of the state of Indonesia, or in other words, province of Indonesia at that time, with its own governor and local government. But at the time, that government merged Aceh into East Sumatra and Tapanuli state, become the province of North Sumatra. And that's because the Acehnese leaders at that time frustrated. And that begins the problem arise among Aceh and the central government. And then also about the inequality of sharing the wealth of Aceh. And this is another problem. And finally, in 1976, we decided that in this case, it is better that Aceh got its independence. And why we established GAM at that time. But now, we started it in peace, but the response was in military operation. We don't have any weapon at that time, but since the approach from the central government at that time by force, so it was forced us to find weapon as well to fight back. And that caused the conflict for 30 years until the government of President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono, and at that time Pak Yusuf Kala was his deputy. Then things changed. We begin to have dialogue at that time. And I think before that, Aslan Wirajuda was the foreign minister, and he was my counterpart in Jirima at that time. We begin in Jirima, Pak Sekala at that time, with Aslan Wirajuda. In fact, he was a very good diplomat. In the morning, we have breakfast together. But during the meeting, of course, we will hang on the overhead. But in the daytime, we have lunch together again. And also we discuss whatever the differences that we have under the tree. Remember that? And we find out the way how to solve this problem. But indeed, we made so many progress, in fact. There are many articles we signed until Koha was established. But the problem at that time, Indonesia was under different president at that time, and vice president at that time. We were signing many articles in Geneva, but on the field, war is going on. So it is a very sad case. I remember one day when we were about to sign the agreement in the morning, I got a report from Aceh, from the commander, that he said to me, Minister, you don't sign the article. Why? I said, because they are attacking us. Is this in that case? And he said, what are we going to do? If they are attacking you, you just attacking them back. I said, that's just so simple like that. When I went to the meeting room, I reported to, at that time, Mr. Martin Griffith from Henry Center. I reported to him. So he talked to Aslan Wirajuda. And from that morning until midday, we never talked. But Aslan was in the room talking to somebody in Jakarta. Still, I think, remember. And at last, during the lunchtime, he excused us that he's going back to Jakarta before meeting. And he said he's very sad that he's being called back to Jakarta. Well, I said, in that case, goodbye to you, that we are still separating ourselves between the Lake Geneva. You are on the other side of the lake, I'm on the side on the lake. What he said to me, not on the lake. I'm on the different side of the ocean, and you are on the different side of the ocean. And he said goodbye, and he flew away. So that's what happened to us now. And then during my meeting with Ahmed Aludin, I got people reported to me that the Vice President of Indonesia, Pak Yusuf Kala, want to see me. But always evade. I refuse. Because simply that I don't trust Indonesia at that time. I don't trust Indonesia because of the failure of the earlier talk. But they said Pak Yusuf Kala is a good vice president. He solved many problems in Ambon and Poso. So I begin to think it over. Is it true or not? Yes. So anyway, this is a chance for us to solve the problem with negotiation, with Pak Usokala. And, before that, we tried to salvage the meeting in Geneva. We went to Tokyo at the time. Even then, that was failure, total failure. For 72 hours was failure. But when we came back to Sweden, 2 months after Tokyo, there was one gentleman who used to come to our place, Mr. Johan Christensen. I think he was here just now. Now he's away. So he came many times to see me in Stockholm. He said, Mr. Malik, I used to follow the negotiation in Aceh many times. I think, he said, if there is a chance of resuming negotiation in the future, I would like to involve, to help you, to help Indonesia. And I said, okay, in that case, you can try. You can try. And when tsunami struck Aceh, now Aceh was after the failure of Tokyo meeting, Aceh was put under close cordon. There was heavy military operation going on in Aceh. Even diplomats cannot go to Aceh at the time. Then suddenly, what happened? Tsunami struck Aceh. When tsunami struck Aceh, the world community at the time came to see us at least 2 times, urging us to continue the negotiation. Because they said, if you don't stop fighting, we cannot come to Aceh to give humanitarian aid. Our people will be killed in the crossfire. Well, I said, well, yes, I understand about that. And in this case, you have to talk also to the Indonesian government about this affair. So I told Joha, Mr. Joha, are you serious to do this thing? Yes, he said. In this case, you go to Jakarta, you try to see the Vice President, Pak Yusuf Kala. Because last time he wanted to see me, I refused to see him. You try yourself. So he went to Jakarta, Prof. He saw you and the President SBY at the time. And then he came back. He said, yes, they are serious to negotiate. Well, I said, who will be the mediator? He said, there's our former president, President Atisari. Okay, I said. But I also don't know about Atisari. I used to ask Mr. Martin Griffith about him. Mr. Griffith, how about Mr. Atisari? Oh, he said, yes, he's a good man. He's my colleague as well, he said. You can depend on him. So that's it. We have the man as a mediator. And then we make an appointment to see to engage Mr. Atisari as mediator. And we agree that, Indonesia also agreed that we will sit in Helsinki. And the first time I met Pak Ahmed Awaluddin. Pak Ahmed, remember that during the first day, almost we break down in the first day. Because why, on my speech, open speech, I'm talking about independence. But I already got angry about that. He said, there's no way to talk about independence here. I said, what I mean actually, at that time, I want to tell you the whole story why we want independence. But before I managed to do that, you got angry already at that time. So the negotiation break down at that time. And then my colleagues said, Minister, we're going to do that. Never mind, he said, tonight you go back, you pack up your luggage. Maybe tomorrow we fly back to Helsinki, to Sweden. I was staying in Sweden at the time. And what happened to the wit of President Ahtisaari at that time? He made a press conference and he said that there's another way to solve this problem. That Aceh will be a special state within the state of Indonesia. The example was in the island of Åland. A small island between Finland and Sweden. The population of the islands, Swedish, but Åland is under within the territory of Finland. This was historical actually. During the 19th centuries, Finland was under Russia. But when they got independence, there was arbitration. The people in Åland want to be part of Finland. Because why? Though they are Swedes people, but they want to be part of Finland because they have special autonomy. So the international community at that time decided they recognized that Åland will be part of Finland instead of Sweden. So this is the example actually. Such a very small island, maybe the population about 40 or 50,000 people, they have their own flag. They can do business anywhere in the world. So that is a good example actually for Aceh within Indonesia. And in fact, you see, if Pak Ahmed said at that time, you don't got angry at that time, you know, I will talk the same thing. There's an example in Finland. Even the United States, a big power, there are several states, they have their own authority. For example, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, they are Spanish. People from Spanish descendant, they speak Spanish, but they are part of the American state. And also Hawaii, also the same. And another islands in Samoa in the Pacific, both the same. So what I want to tell at the time, Aceh could be just like that within Indonesia. But anyway, because of the wit of the President Ahtisaari, then the next day, he persuaded us to continue the meeting, and we went to the meeting. And from that day onwards, the meeting going on from day to day until we achieve our goal of peace. You know, Pamit, at the last moment, you know, almost failure as well. Because what? When we agreed everything, in that morning, on the day that we're going to sign it, Mr. Ahtisaari came to the room with my delegation, and we read all the articles. But the last point about the military presence in Aceh, the number of military presence in Aceh. Before the conflict, the military presence in Aceh at that time was 7,000. From all units, 7,000. But in the agreement, 14,700, I think, yes? 14,000. So it's very high, more than double. And my delegation refused to sign it. because of the number of the difference of the number of the military personnel. Mr. Atisari just, he cannot do anything. He just cannot do anything, actually. Then from the morning up to 12 o'clock, I'm doing the very quick thinking. What's going to happen like this? If we don't sign, that means everything will be failure. And the upper hand, because in Indonesia also got problem as well. I'm studying what is the problem of Indonesia. Because the government, they want to settle by peace. But the highliners in the military, they don't want. They want to be in full control of Aceh. And because of that, we cannot sign the agreement. But I will do the very fast thinking. Now, if we don't sign, because of the difference of the number, that brings the opponents in Jakarta upper hand. And those people like Pak Usokala who want to make peace will be jeopardized. So I request Mr. President, can you please excuse me, you give me some time. I want to speak with my delegation. So we went to the next room. And then I told them, now I said, we will be fighting with Indonesia for decades, with tens of thousands of army personnel as well as police. Indonesia cannot defeat us. We also cannot defeat Indonesia, I said. Now, this is the chance for us to settle the problem. At that time, we are facing a severe military operation. Now this is about 14,700. But remember that under this agreement, 14,700, the Indonesian organic troops be in Aceh for external defense. That means they are going to the barrack. So what is the matter with that? They are going to the barrack. This is agreement. Even 40,700, they are not. They can roam anywhere in the villages. Different. Why? I said, why do you afraid? And this is under agreement. I said. And this we have to have the people in Jakarta who advocate for peace. Otherwise, everything will be in jeopardized. So my delegation all agreed. Oh, in that case, we signed. So after that, about 1 hour after that, I called Mr. Atisari. Mr. Atisari, I will sign it. Then we have the deal. That was the final clause that we signed. So in a way, whatever we are happening, we are human beings. Human beings, in fact, there are kindness, there are jealousy, there are arrogance, there are conflict, killing each other. And also, when we go to the meeting, of course, we feel angry. There's a grudge, an urge for revenge. But we must be wise. As a leader, we must be wise. When you want to do something better than conflict, that is peace, we must put all these grudges aside. And that is why, Pak Amiruddin, you see me always very calm. I put everything aside for revenge, whatever. The past is the past. This is history. But we never forget it. But history. And we never repeat it again. So, what we see is the future, the bright future. This is what happened. So we managed to do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is also very rare in the history of a nation that at this special moment, we have special people, wise people at a special place. That's what we achieved on the 15th August year 2005. This is very rare case. If we don't have this kind of people at the right time, at the right place, at that right moment, nothing can happen. For this is what an additional for me. So from us here, we have Pak Usokala, Pak SBY, Pak Ahmed Aludin, and also President Mati Atisari as an able mediator. Thank you very much indeed.